All right, we got some breaking news out of Virginia. There is a verdict in the Zwerner case, 5 hours, 15 minutes. This is the elementary school teacher that is suing the assistant principal in Virginia, basically saying that she was negligent at her job. It was gross negligence. That's the allegation. Negligence when that 6-year-old showed up with a gun and then eventually shot the plaintiff.
Yes, this is the second day that they've been deliberating, so they got there early this morning and started this deliberation. Again, 5 hours and 15 minutes. The clock is paused, and we are standing by to see what's going to happen inside of that courtroom. And we have with us here in studio someone who's been monitoring all of this, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft. Kelly, this case is unique. It involves a school shooting. It involves a 6-year-old. But we have a defendant who has to not only have assumed a duty to protect the teacher in her school, but also to have acted grossly negligent. There's a lot at play here.
Yeah, Julia, and so that is the standard. Was she grossly negligent? So when you take a look at that verdict form, that was the first question. Was the defendant in this case grossly negligent in this particular situation? The jurors, it took them about 5 hours and 15 minutes to reach a verdict. So we don't have that verdict yet. As soon as we do, we will bring that to you. But the jury makeup here, I want to talk a little bit about that. There are 7 people that are deciding this particular case. And so there are 4 women and 3 men who have been deliberating. And that first question, when you take a look at that verdict form, was Ebony Parker grossly negligent? Then they would go to number 2. Was Ebony Parker grossly negligent? Was her gross negligence the proximate cause of the injury? And when we talk about proximate cause, that goes into foreseeability. So was this situation foreseeable? We heard defense counsel talk about it throughout this case, saying it was not foreseeable that a 6-year-old would be bringing this gun to school, bringing a gun to school. But we heard from several witnesses who testified to the fact that they had suspicions that day about this particular student, and that 2 little girls had come to one of the witnesses who took the stand and said this little boy had a gun with him. These 2 little girls reported this. Then that particular witness, that particular school administrator, went and talked to Dr. Parker about this particular situation. And so, was she grossly negligent? That's exactly what the jurors are going to be deciding, Julia and Ted.
And then if they believe that she was, they'll also have to decide the damages, which will be interesting. $40 million was the original ask here. And in the closing argument from the plaintiff, the attorney, he basically said, it's up to you. You know, here, what do you believe it is worth if you believe that our client deserves compensation? What is it worth that her life will always be impacted by this incident, mentally, but also physically? Her hand, you know, there's limited mobility there. So this is another part of the equation in a civil case that, you know, most of our verdicts come in guilty or not guilty. This is multi-layered.
It is. And defense counsel, go ahead. We're taking a look live right now, so we should be expecting that verdict at any moment. When we talk about, Ted, what you were discussing, we heard plaintiff's counsel talk about her injuries, how her life is forever changed, how no amount of money is going to get Abby Zwerner back to normal again like she was prior to that particular shooting. He went down all the ways that her life has changed since. She's no longer a teacher. Now she has gone to cosmetology school, and we heard defense counsel talk about that, saying really her life hasn't changed that much. Now she's doing cosmetology. She's not even going back to teaching. We'll have to see how those arguments laid with the jurors when we come back with this verdict.
You can only imagine the anticipation right now, that gallery filling up, everyone inside of the room. And you know, we don't know. I was wondering how long it would take if there's a plaintiff's verdict, if they would take longer trying to calculate, because dealing with $40 million and determining what is appropriate in a case like this, I wondered if that would impact the length. So I don't know what that actually indicates. We see them standing up inside of the courtroom. That means that jury of 7 is walking in. Let's go in together.
The order of things will be as follows. I will bring the jury in, and I'm admonishing everyone in the courtroom that I will not tolerate nor have any outbursts. This is a very important case to both sides, and the dignity of this courtroom has been upheld throughout this trial, and I appreciate that from both sides and the parties and everyone who has been here. for the past 2 weeks, and I expect that to continue. If there are any outbursts, you will be immediately taken outside the courtroom and left to not listen anymore. So please, no outbursts. My clerk will take the verdict. She will then read it, and then we will have and hear any motions at that time. You may bring in the jury.
Okay.
Jack Rice, real quick, while we're watching this, what is the impact of this case on a national level, in your opinion?
It's amazing, isn't it? When we look at just how much this has impact, people have really been grabbed by this. They really have. They're watching what this means.
Hold on,
I think
listen in.
what we find.
All right, will the foreperson please identify him or herself by number?
Foreman 37.
All right, if you can fold that piece of paper as you had it and hand that to my clerk. Madam Clerk, will you please read the verdict?
We, the jury, on the issues joined, find in favor of the plaintiff, Abigail Zwerner, and assess her damages at $10 million. The award interest beginning on June 1st, 2024.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any requests from the plaintiff?
No, Your Honor.
Any requests from the defense?
That we schedule time for post-trial motions.
All right.
And
All
judgment not being heard on the verdict today.
All right, so the court will withhold entry of a judgment order in the case. The court will further reserve all rulings and hearings on post-trial motions for a later date to be set by the parties. Anything else to take up at this time, Mr. Beniozen? Ms. Douglas?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, your term expires tomorrow, so you were still admonished by the court that because you still are in term, that you are not to talk about any of the cases that you've heard during this term, but you do not need to call back. Thank you very much for your service. It is an important service to all of us, and I know it has been a difficult service, but one that is necessary for the resolution of disputes in this country that I am very proud that we get to exercise those rights. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are excused.
Please rise for the jury. You may be seated.
All right. The plaintiff and her attorneys are excused, as is the defendant and her attorney as well. You may follow, if you so desire, my bailiff.
Thank you, Judge.
Court stands in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Wow, there you have it. The jury has spoken, finding for the plaintiff, Abigail Zwerner, not going so far as to award her the $40 million her attorneys asked for, but $10 million. You can see their smiles. They are certainly happy with that.
Relieved, happy. They rolled the dice, obviously, by going to trial. A lot of civil cases they never make it into a courtroom, but I felt it was maybe going to go the other way,
We weren't
frankly.
sure, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was possible that this could be a plaintiff verdict, and for them to come so quick with $10 million, they didn't take a lot of time with calculation, it doesn't even seem.
Jack Rice still with us. We're first Kelly Craft. Your reaction, Kelly, to this verdict. It was quite a case.
It was quite a case. I think when you take a look at the witness testimony in this situation, we heard from a school counselor as well as one of the other teachers who had worked closely with the young man, and they went to Dr. Parker. They expressed concern that this young man, that they had heard this young man had a gun in his backpack. I just think that when someone is in charge, when they have that duty in a school, when you hear that there's a possibility that a young child has a gun, you need to spring into action. And I realize I'm talking in hindsight. Hindsight is always 20/20. But in this day and age of school shootings, 2 little girls are reporting that there's a young man who has a gun.
They did the right thing.
They did the right thing.
They're the ones who did the right thing.
And so when you take a look and you look at the evidence in this case, you have the school counselor who said there was an issue. Then you had the other woman, her name was Amy Kovac. She is the reading specialist. She went to Dr. Parker and she testified that she actually got mad at Dr. Parker because she went back to Dr. Parker the second time and said, we believe that maybe he took the backpack out, or excuse me, took the gun out of the backpack. And she testified, Amy Kovac testified, that the principal basically said, well, he has little pockets in his pants. So basically there's no place that he could have hid a gun, when in fact he did have the gun in his jacket. So I feel that the jurors probably looked at this as the administrator of the school, the person in charge, maybe more action should have been taken. They have the authority at schools to search students if they have reasonable suspicion to search students. You do not have to wait for their parents to arrive. You don't. She said the parent was coming. The parent
in about an hour.
The parent came too late. And we have Abby Zwerner, who was shot in this case.
Jack Rice, this is a unique case because it's a civil case where we didn't hear from the defendant. Why? Because it's a pending criminal trial, and she did not want to incriminate herself, so she didn't take the stand. And maybe that hurt her in this venue because jurors didn't get to see her. They saw the plaintiff, they saw the other teacher, but they didn't get her side of the story, and she wasn't able to humanize herself during this trial. She just sat there. How does that play in? And then looking forward to the criminal proceedings, does this affect it?
Oh, I think it does. It certainly does when it comes to the outcome here. Obviously, I'm not surprised that she didn't testify. I mean, that's the one piece, simply because the criminal case is still pending. Honestly, I'm a little surprised in some ways that the civil case wasn't kicked out and that they didn't let the criminal case handle itself out. I've seen that happen so many times in cases of my own before the civil lawyers get involved. But if you think about what Kelly's talking about, we're looking at the gross negligence question, then you're looking at the foreseeability question. And we think about what Mrs. Kovac had done, some 25 or 30 years of experience, and you get 2 little girls who come in and say, we think he's got a gun, and this goes to an administrator. It almost feels like these young teachers are like bait. They just sit them out there and say, it's your problem if something bad happens. And I think that actually resonated with the jury. The only thing that I find fascinating isn't the fact that the jury found in favor of Abby. That doesn't surprise me. I actually thought that would happen based upon how it played out. What surprised me was the 10 million, because this isn't punitives, this is actual damage. And my question is, how did you get to that number? That's the thing that I keep trying to add as I take off my shoes and I'm counting with my fingers and toes, and I'm still trying to figure that number out. Yes, terrible, but this isn't, when you say it's not about the money or money will never fix this. Well, guess what? This is what you're asking for. The jury can't give anything else but money, but you got to be able to sort of account for what that number means. And that's one that I'm still trying to add up.
It's
Kelly, don't you think?
The plaintiff's attorney did say $10 million. He didn't ask for it, but he said she wouldn't trade this for $10 million. So interesting they went with $10 million.
Yeah, and so, you know, in Illinois, when they do cases like this, you usually assign a number. You know, attorneys assign a number. Pain and suffering, $10 million. I didn't hear the plaintiff's attorney go through line item by line item to assign a number to this. So how they derive $10 million from this, I'm not certain, but usually we see a plaintiff's counsel kind of going down, $5 million for this, $5 million for this.
$5 a day for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
You've seen those kind of calculations.
Well, you're never going to get the 10 million if you do it that way. He was brilliant the way he did it. He threw out 40, then 10. There is no price for it, what she suffered, and it worked.